Hello, welcome. So today, you can see it, I'm going to be rough grinding this out. I'm going to get our handle thinned down here and just get everything looking a little bit prettier before we heat treat. So that'll be happening today. This will get quenched and hardened today, and then it will also get a cycle in the temper oven. But what needs to happen first is it needs to get the bulk of the metal removed, or at least to the correct profile. I don't know if I'll touch up the grinds at all, as that, in my experience, I've found leads to warping with a forged knife. So leaving it forged scale on the outside, typically my go-to. However, this handle is mighty thick and like sharp down here. So stay tuned. This is going to be graphic grinding.
Alright, so here you can see me grinding the profile. I'm currently using a ceramic belt, which just hogs away this material. It does an excellent job at removing large amounts of metal very quickly. You can tell by the sparks that this steel definitely has a solid carbon content, so that's exciting.
Alright, so that is a far more tasteful profile to this blade. It is no longer so bumpy. I quite like it. It's got a nice little palm. I'll probably accentuate that just a little bit. Little palm rest there. Let me do that now, actually. Nice little palm rest right there. So your palm has something to, the meat of your hand will have somewhere to sit. So now I'm going to thin out this very thick handle some. Shouldn't take too long with a 24 grit belt, that's for sure. So hang tight.
So the grinder I'm using is actually a 3-inch by 79-inch belt grinder. And the 24 grit belts are essentially like holding the knife out of the window of a car, or out of the door of a car on a gravel road going at like 120 miles an hour. It's ludicrous.
All right, so here's where we're at. We have the handles nice and flat. That'll give us a good surface to glue our scales to, our Paramount Art Center scales. And then we have profile ground the whole way around. So last step I've got to do is just throw a few holes in here. And then once that's done, it is ready to go into the heat treat oven, which is another spectacle. But yeah, this is it's going to be a mean chopper. So yeah, that is where we're at. All right, so next up, I just need to blue dicum, which is a layout fluid, my handle here. So that's the prep. This is always pretty fun. All right, got my abuse calipers here. Gonna set those to about half the thickness of the handle. Lock it in and scribe away. That's going to give us some really nice lines to lay out our holes. Okay, so we've got our holes for our handle marked here. There we go. Now we're going to drill them. Just want to give you an idea of how soft the annealed steel is. So we're going to dirty deburr this here with a 1/2-inch bit. Watch this. Look at that.
All right, so the oven that I use is an even heat treat kiln. You can see I've got my knife in there. So we're gonna heat treat this kind of to the standard high carbon steel heat treat, which I think is this one here, 1500 degrees. Hold for 20 minutes, and then we're gonna dunk it in Parks 50 oil. So we're gonna save that guy, and not Magna Cut, ADC or V2 quench, start, delay start, no. So it is currently heating. Once it's heated and soaked for 10 minutes, then it's gonna go into the quench oil and get hard.
Been in here for 10 minutes, and now we're gonna cool it down rapidly from 1,525 degrees to room temp. My quench is not keeping up. Uh-oh. That might combust, we'll see. Here. That was a little less than ideal. Pull that all the way down. And that is straight. No warps, I'll show that to you. Hot dog. That's always a good time. We like it when a plan comes together. So now this is ready to temper. So we gotta let the oven cool down, and then this is gonna go in for 2 cycles of 400. And that's gonna sacrifice some of the immense hardness. I guess let's check if it got hard. Let's see here. SCADA file. There's gonna be an initial layer that's not hard. That's called the decarb layer. There it is. You can hear the difference. That's the decarb layer there. But then here, all hard. How exciting. And what I expected. Cool. Nice and hard. Exceptional. I almost said just like me.
All right, so this machine I'm using is a 2x72 grinder, and it has a 12 or 14 inch wheel on it. So that wheel is going to grind the opposite shape into the knife. So this knife will be a hollow ground knife. So I am laying out all the grinds freehand. It is something that I've spent a lot of time practicing, and it is something I feel pretty proficient in. I don't take these super far up the knife because I'm not trying to sacrifice too much material. And this does grind pretty quick because I did forge in my bevels. One of the really nice things about hollow grinding is once you get an initial groove put in place, it is easy to ride that groove and continue to follow the same grind line. In my opinion, it's a lot easier than a flat grind or any of the other grinds. So, yeah, you can see me here just slowly eating away. What you can't see off camera is every pass I'm dipping this into a bucket of water. The reason I dip the knife into the bucket of water is because if this blade gets over 400 degrees, then our temper is ruined and the knife is essentially no longer a knife. So I am just keeping it cool to maintain the heat treat that we took time to do, and it is gonna pay off in the long run, I'm sure, but that's the reason I grind without gloves on. Or if I do wear gloves, it'll just be nitrile gloves. That way I can feel the heat. That way I know it's not getting too hot. Earlier I mentioned you can tell that this is high carbon steel by the way it sparks. Once the steel is hardened, it sparks way more. So it's nice to see that. Here's me changing the belts, and now I'm moving up to a 120 grit belt. So I started with a 60, The 120 is going to take out the 60 grit scratches, and then after this, I will actually move up to a blue Scotch-Brite belt. So that is a surface conditioning belt, and it's going to blend all of my grinds and any potential facets left in the face of the blade out. So it's a little magic trick of the knife making world are these Scotch-Brite belts. If you know about them, you love them. So constantly I will reassess and look down the blade to see, and then this is something dangerous and dumb I like to do. Just let that belt run right off the running wheel. Don't do what I do, kids. It will get you hurt. So once again, just completely disregarding all safety and letting that running wheel go while I change the belt. What an idiot. So here we are onto the blue Scotch-Brite. You can see a lot less sparks there because we're chewing off a lot less material. So I'm sure you're probably thinking, man, his fingers get really, really close to that really fast-moving wheel with abrasives on it. Does he hurt himself? The answer is yes, all the time. It is not uncommon for me to grind off the tips of my fingers. In fact, I even have a shirt that says fingertip free gang. So yeah, just the sign of a knife maker. Alrighty, bevels are in. I didn't want to bring them all the way up because I wanted to leave it nice and thick at the spine to make sure it chops extra good. But you can see it is nice and thin at the edge. Next step for this guy, get the handles glued up. All right, just going to get this traced onto here the best that I can. Oh, it's gonna look good. Now I gotta cut that out. Now this is a machine I don't F around with. The bandsaw will permanently disfigure your body in a matter of milliseconds. I really, really do try and maintain the absolute highest safety practices with the bandsaw. I will even use a push stick sometimes. However, on these big chunky pieces that give you a lot to hold, I typically don't. Got some cracking in here. So as we move along with this project, we will need to fill those cracks with 10 super glue. Stay tuned. All right, well, I got it all jigged up on the surface grinder and thinned down and forgot to hit record. So that's cool. Here they are soaking up even more super glue. Look at that, just drinking it up. It's about time I'm gonna flip these and do the other side. Using the knife as a template to drill the holes works really well. It essentially assures you're going to have an exact lineup for your holes. So I will use a pin in the first hole to make sure the second hole is perfect. And then right here, I am just going to pin these handles together. They're a little bit tight because the holes weren't 100% straight, but they are definitely straight enough. This step I will be moving into the grinding room to finish the top of the handle because I can't finish the top of the handle when it's attached to the knife because I'll hit the face of the steel. So this is actually a step that occurs before the knife gets attached, or sorry, the handle gets attached to the knife. So here we are back at the 3x79. This is a grinder from Housemade. They are an awesome company. So that first belt was backed with a platen just to get the rough shaping in. And then this is a non-backed platen. So here I am putting on a 240 grit belt just to smooth and contour that top. And then you'll see me change the belt here and move up to a 400 grit belt to really remove all those scratches. And then we'll move over to the buffer. The buffer is going to really, really polish up the top of the handle and make everything look nice and shiny as you're about to see. Now I'm doing all of these steps to the top of the handle, but these will be the steps that I perform on the entire handle when I shape the handle. So they'll go through the belt progression and then the handle itself will get polished at the end. So we'll get this finish on the entire handle. Very cool. This part of the process was pretty funny. I decided to give the old mini lathe a try to turn down my riverfront bolts, and well, you're about to see. It doesn't exactly go well. I guess I loaded up too much pressure. Maybe the bit wasn't high enough or not sharp. Ironic, I know. But yeah, I have a tried and true method that I don't mind, but I call it the ghetto lathe. So the ghetto lathe is, yes, that's right, the workpiece in an electric cordless drill against a belt grinder. But I think you're going to agree with me. I get some pretty impressive results with this technique. So now, in fairness, I did try and take my time with this. This is actually in ×10 speed. So this is definitely not a quick process, as well as I'm sure this is a very worn out belt, judging by how blue that gets. But you can see I'm using a caliper. I'm checking how thick the pin is, and here you go. The proof is in the pudding. Look at that. You'll see it'll slide through this handle nice and tight, which is exactly what we need. A little bit more at the base. Goodness me, we have come a long way from where we started. So here are the handle blanks. Here are the pins that we have made out of our riverfront garbage. And here is our very large knife we have forged out of the spring steel clip from the railroad. So that is the individual pieces. Now I just have to glue it up. All right, so surface prep for the glue up is huge. I actually spent about 10 minutes acetoning off the handle until all the grease was gone. The handles themselves, or the scales themselves, came clean really easy and left no residue on the paper towel very quick. And then you're gonna see me give the pins a quick wipe down. Like I said, any oil left on the surface will cause the glue not to bond. So the glue I'm using is a 24-hour cure high-impact epoxy. I would say it's kind of a trade secret, so I'm not going to tell you what epoxy it is, but it is not JB Weld. So I am just getting glue on all the contacting surfaces, down the whole pin, inside the holes for the handle. That will slip onto the tang of the knife itself really easily. And then some more glue on the next contacting surface. After that, I went through, wiped off all the super unnecessary squeeze out. Of course, once I got the clamps on. So here I am getting it all clamped up. Ta-da! All right, so now the knife is glued up, and tomorrow we will grind the handle and shape the handle. So pretty exciting. We've made a lot of progress. And there it is. You can see we've got squeeze out, which is something I look for on a lot of knives. Or when I glue up my knives, I want squeeze out the whole way around. That way there's not going to be any gaps. So there she sits. And we'll come back and reassess and